Hey, my name is Allie Edwards, and in 2006, I began the process of choosing a word for myself each year. I do that in lieu of resolutions and as a way to give myself something to focus on over the course of the year in my own quest to know myself better. Really, that is probably at the heart of it. In 2011, I started running a workshop called One Little Word and did that on my own for about 9 years. And then I invited a team of people to come along with me to lead some of the prompts in this year-long workshop. We start in January, we end in December. It's a completely manufactured timeline based on the calendar year. And over the course of 12 months, we lead people through a series of creative prompts that include writing and photography and collage or mixed media of some sort as a way to connect and be in conversation with our words. Today, what I want to share with you is a conversation I had with this team about how we choose our words each year, and then sharing a little bit about the words that we have chosen this year. We're sharing this here on YouTube to give people a chance to see what are the kind of conversations we have over the course of the year. Each month of the year, we do have a live conversation that we do on Zoom where participants in the workshop are welcome to join us. And we talk about the prompt, we talk about our reactions or reflections on the prompt in relation to our word, as well as, presenting you with the prompt at the beginning of the month and giving you something to focus on as you journey with your own word throughout the course of the year. So this is a conversation that we just recorded that goes a little bit deeper on how we choose our words. There are many great tips in here and things for you to think about as you begin the process of thinking about maybe what your word is going to be. And whether or not you end up joining us in our One Little Word workshop, we wish you the best this coming year. And if you have any questions, you can let me know in the comments below. Here's our conversation. Hey, everybody, it's Allie Edwards, and welcome to a conversation about choosing your word for the year, choosing your one little word. I've got our One Little Word team here with me today, and we thought that we would record a video of us talking about how we choose our words, maybe a little bit about what goes into it. And if we have our word for next year, we can share that too. Part of the reason why I want to do this is just so that you can see that there's lots of different ways that people approach having a word and approach choosing what that word is going to be. Sometimes it's really active, sometimes it's more passive. And I think we'll hear a variety of different ways today. So is anybody super excited and wants to go first?
I'll go.
Oh, I knew I was going to pick you anyway, Victoria.
I'll go.
Awesome.
Go.
Okay, let's hear. What's your process?
So I would, would like to say that I have this really nice in-depth process. I don't. Usually, I start thinking about what my word's going to be right around fall time. And that's usually at a nice point where I'm almost ready to be done with the word that I'm currently living through, which this year was make. And I'm starting to think about everything that the new year brings. And so how I select my word is really based on how I'm feeling. And so towards the end of, we're in 2022. So towards the end of 2021, I think coming out of, at that point, almost 2 years of just being hyper emotional and on guard, and everything was just going on with the things that were happening at that time. I just wanted to chill in 2022 and just focus on making. And that kind of ebbed and flowed. And I talked about that in my mid-month review, or mid-month check-in rather. And so what I discovered this year is, as I'm kind of paying attention a little bit more, I'm being more intentional with how I feel, mind, body, or whatever. There was a real pull for me to slow down personally, slow down in my business, just going slow and trying to understand what that means for me right now in this space, and why do I need to slow down? And I started thinking about this around September or October, when there were shifts and changes that I was noticing. And it's very evident that I have to make some transitions. I have to make some changes, but those changes don't have to be like fast, right? I don't have to be on, go, go, go. I can slow down and be more intentional and still produce whatever result it is that I want to do, or whether that's a lesson that I'm learning from something, whether it's growth in some way. And so I started thinking about the word slow in different aspects of my life. So in October, I was diagnosed as pre-diabetic. And that definitely underscored the need for slow, because I was just go, 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 and I wasn't paying attention to my health. And so while I wasn't surprised by that diagnosis, I knew that I needed to slow down and start taking better care of myself. So from a wellness standpoint, that word just started to kind of surface. In my business, I noticed changes and things going on, some okay and great, and some not so okay and great. But my response, as a lot of entrepreneurs, is, well, just keep going, keep pushing, keep going. And it's like, no.
We're all like, yep.
Yeah. It's like, we all know this, those of us who are entrepreneurs, particularly solopreneurs that are trying to do it all on our own. And so out of this sort of sense of panic and anxiety, I reached out to a friend of mine. She and I have been friends for over 20 years. We were high school classmates. She owns a consultancy firm, company. Well, I say firm. She is a solopreneur as well, but she has over 20 plus years of marketing experience. And I reached out to her and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And she's like, take a deep breath. And what she told me was, slow down. And I was like, so it's like these little like signs. And I'm not one of those people that are like, I just see the signs and everything. I'm just going to do the thing. But I was paying attention enough to know that the universe was telling me, okay, so you're going to need to slow down. So we've talked a few times, and she's helping me work some things out. And a lot of the things that I need to do is to slow down. I have to slow down so I can learn, I can digest, I can process, I can think, I can create, I can do all of those things that I haven't been doing in the almost 6 years that I've been in business. So slowing down to transition and to learn. Slowing down just in my personal life to spend time with my kid and spend time with my wife, to spend time with my mom, who I take care of, and understanding where, as a caregiver, I need to slow down and be more attuned to what her needs are, while also maintaining healthy boundaries too. So those who are caregivers know exactly what I'm talking about, whether it's to a parent or whatnot. And then I think just in general, noticing differences between who I am now as someone who's almost 42 years old versus 20 years ago, where I was definitely on that hustle grind and doing all the things. And now my Victoria now cannot do that anymore. I mentally and physically cannot do that anymore. And so the word slow just kind of was just popping up all over the place. And I'm like, okay, universe, I hear what you're saying, girl. I am going to slow down. So my word for 2023 is slow. And I'm going to leave it open. I'm not going to define it in terms of, oh, like with make this year, I was like, I'm just going to focus on making, like physically making things. And I talked about in my mid-month that word, actually, the definition of that word changed for me throughout this year. I didn't show up to it the way that I thought that I would. I'm going to leave slow open. Slow is just going to be open, and it's going to show up in how slow shows up. But I'm going to be a lot more mindful and a lot more intentional and forgiving of myself, and showing myself a lot of grace throughout the year. And to remind myself that you're not competing with anybody. You're not racing against anybody, only your own expectations, right? And a lot of times it's unrealistic. So I decided that slow for me means putting myself first, and taking care of what I need to take care of to make sure that I'm able to breathe and rest and relax and to think and to be creative and to do all of those things. Slowing down so that I'm hearing and listening actively to those who are around me, making sure that I'm slowing down and not rushing processes, because I have to slow down to learn. I have to slow down to learn how to take better care of my body. I have to slow down to learn how to be there for a parent who's struggling with some things, to slow down to be there for my spouse, to slow down to be there for my tween, to slow down to listen to what it is that I need to do. So slow may even look like me making sure that I'm building in time throughout my week where I'm doing absolutely nothing at all. Nothing at all. No work, none of that stuff. So we'll see how slow goes. Slow. I'm looking forward to slow. I'm looking forward to taking a deep breath. But I don't think that I would have thought about it as deeply as I had it not just been popping up all over the place. So we'll see how slow goes in 2023.
I love it. I love it. You said you mentioned so many. I took a lot of notes.
Thank you.
I was writing down lots of notes. I also think, first of all, I think that you should definitely listen back to this, because I think everything that you've said, you could just write it down. Like you could write it down and stick it in your album, because it was a very good explanation of your reason why and what you want to focus on. A couple things that I really noticed, and I think this is probably very relevant for all of us, is the paying attention piece, right? I think probably for most of us that have been doing this for any number of years now, that the paying attention piece, once you get into the rhythm of having a word, fall is the normal time, I think, for so many people to start thinking about a different word, like as the season transitions, and we're kind of like, okay, what are the things? And it's not like, for me, it's never been like, I'm searching, I must find a word, right? Like, it's not like that. It's more just it's like an internal knowing that I will have a word next year. And so I'm kind of opening myself up by listening to things that are popping up around me, and by paying a little bit more attention, and by I usually start a brainstorm list. And I think Lou does that for sure too. Like, having a list of words, probably most of us, that we can then start thinking about and start kind of narrowing down, what is it that I actually want to focus on this year? One other thing, as you were talking, Victoria, that I was thinking about is sometimes the words we pick are really global, right? Global in terms of they are likely to, or have the ability to touch every piece of our lives, right? And I think slow is a global word for you, right? It can fit into all of the different categories. It can be applied in all those places. So I think sometimes we have a word that's really global, and then sometimes we have a word that's more specific. We'll just be working on, one specific thing, one area of your life that you want to focus on. And both of those are great. Like, there isn't a prescription. There isn't this isn't the one little word method, right? Of like, this is how you must do this. So yeah, I love that. I also wrote down, when you mentioned like who you are versus who you were. And then I also wrote down versus who you want to be, right? Like that continuum, I think, is really interesting. And you can place yourself on that continuum and think potentially about a word that can ride that continuum, right? From who you were to who you are now, to who you want to be. And what do you need to take along with you on that path to who you want to be? And that's what it sounds to me like you're doing. And I love that word. That's a word that I've thought about and almost picked multiple times, because I think it is a really, really valuable word. So I'm excited to see how that goes for you. So thank you for sharing. Yeah. Let's see. Crystal, you want to go next? Okay.
Yes, which is funny because I feel like, Victoria, you and I have a very similar goal for next year. And we feel like we did this year too. Like, we're just on this wavelength. I don't know. Because you were make and I was play, and now you're slow and I'm going to be less.
It's perfect.
Like, very, very similar.
I love how it's like riding the waves, right? You're like I'm all in. I'm going to make all this stuff. And now I'm like, I'm all out. Take me out of everything. It's awesome. I love it.
True. It's so true. Okay. So I wrote down some notes to myself so I could remember a couple points I want to bring up. First of all, when thinking about a word for the next year, I generally don't start thinking about it until December. Like, I feel like for me, the fall is just crazy pants busy. And so by the time we get to December, I'm like, oh no, it's December and I need a word. But usually they're not too hard. Like, I have never felt difficulty in finding a word. But I don't know. It's not, it's something
I
that's a
like
little,
that. I want to pin that
yeah.
concept of, if anybody has had difficulty finding a word, I would like to hear about that as we go along too. So sorry, go ahead, Crystal. Yeah.
So I haven't in my years so far had too much difficulty finding a word, because I don't know, something like just feels right, and then that's it. So this year, when I did my mid-month content and I went back through and read everything I had written over the past year, I looked for patterns. What are things that keep coming up? What are things that I keep writing down for maybe why I'm not where I want to be? Why am I not achieving what I want to achieve, or having in my life what I want to have? And drawing some of those words out. Sometimes too, they just like, when you read something, maybe a year from now, something else is going to pop out at you. And at this moment, what was popping out to me was, I need to do blah, blah, blah less so I can do this more. I need to do this less so I can do this more. So I was like, man, this word less just keeps coming up. Also, it's not the first year that this word has been on my mind, but it is the first year that I have felt ready to say yes. And that happens, right? So in years past, less has come up and I have been like, no, I don't want to do less. That's just, I'm not interested in that. I want to keep doing all the things. And so then it took some living of life, some years experience, to then come to this place of, yeah, I need to not do all the things. Like, that's not sustainable. So that was a big part of picking my word too. And a lot of times it relates to pain points. You know, what are the pain points in your life, and what can you actually do to make a difference? Some things that cause pain in our lives, we really don't have any control over. So having that as a word or as a goal might not be something that would be like, quote unquote, super successful. So it's like, what is causing pain, and what can I actually change throughout the course of the year or focus on? So I might be able to change something to do with this pain point. For me, that's a big feeling of overwhelm. So by doing less, I can hopefully put myself on the trajectory to fix that and to not feel so much overwhelm. So there's that. With the word less, another thing I wrote down is there's a weighing there of aspirations versus values. So like, what are the things that I am aspiring to do in my life? And what are the things that I actually value in my life? And where are they intersecting? And where do I need to let go of things? Because maybe I'm working too hard and I'm not really focusing on my value of family, you know? So it's like, how can we bring those more into balance? And for me, again, this focusing on less will hopefully balance the two a little bit better. So I can still aspire, but I can also pay attention and participate in the things that I value. Let's see if I have anything else. Oh, and I also said listening to me too, like you did, like Victoria. So I think we live in a society where we're constantly seeing everybody else's lives, and people have lots of opinions on how we should be living. Right? And it takes a lot of strength, I think, to ignore that and to just live the life that you want to live, to listen to your needs, to listen to your own wants, and to follow those regardless of what everybody else is telling you to do. So that's a big part of this too. Yeah.
I think that is the experience of life, right? The experience of Erin and I just had this whole conversation about this because we went and visited my parents the other night, and we were driving back and we were listening to some podcasts and talking in the car. And I was saying something to the effect of, I think our whole purpose in life is to like get to the point where we know ourselves and we can live in alignment with ourselves, not with who our parents wanted us to be or who our parents thought we should be, right? It's this, who am I, and what do I care about, and what do I value, and how do I live in alignment with that? Yeah, I feel that's just, I feel like that is just, that's it. That seems to be it around here too.
And part of what makes this project so important, because I think this project is one of those that helps you truly focus on yourself, in coming to understand yourself better.
And I think that's what it's been for me in a very long-term sort of way, right? It is a slow unearthing of what are the things that I actually care about. And maybe, maybe this year I care about adding things in. And then I realized, okay, wait a minute, I don't actually want to add that stuff in. So get out of here, and so it's writing. Yeah, it is 100%. Lots of good things from you too, Crystal, that I wanted to point out here. I wrote lots of, I liked how you said sometimes it's like just the right time. So sometimes you're saying yes to a word, right? That might have popped up at other times where you were like, nope, not doing it now. Nope, bye, go away. But then this year you're like, you know what? Okay. For whatever reason, based on learning, based on experience, I thought that was really good. Just the experience of living. There was one other thing that you said too, about how there's lots of things in our lives that, that we don't have control over. One other thing that you said, you're talking briefly about, there's so many things in our lives that we don't have control over. And what I wrote down and what I'm trying to live in my own life is that the thing that we do have control over is our response. Right. And people have talked about that in a million different, people that are way smarter than me. But that is something that I come back to over and over again, that the only thing that I can control in this situation is how I respond to this and how do I want to respond. And I feel like the words that I've had over the years have helped me learn how I want to respond. And I've done it in really shitty ways, and I've done it in ways that were much more positive. So thank you for bringing that up too. As you were talking, another thing that popped up that I wrote down was the question that I think that everybody in the community can ask themselves as we get ready and as we move into this next year is, what does success in this project mean to you? Right? Because that's going to mean something different for everybody. For some people, it's related to the prompts. For a lot of people, it's not even related to the prompts, right? It doesn't have to be related to that. But I would love to pose that question to the community to think about that a little bit as we move into January. What does success with having a word mean to you? Is it that you just remember the word you picked at the end of the year? Like that could be success for you. What do you have metrics? Do you care about that? Like, I just thank you for giving that to me as a jumping off point. And I also wrote down like what do you learn? Does what you learned from your previous words lead you to the word that you're having today? And from what you talked about, it definitely sounds like that. And I think that it does for me too. So thank you, Crystal. So I love talking about this. It's so fun to hear from everybody. Liz, do you want to go next? Okay.
Sure. That's great. This is like one of my favorite topics. So thank you all. I'm just like eating it like a little snack.
I got pages of notes.
Yeah. So good. So let's see. I similarly look at how I feel and how I want to feel, and that starts to come up in the fall at some point. This year's been unique in that I've had a couple different words that have come up, and then I've been like, no, I try it on, or just think about it. And then one keeps tapping at me, which is what usually happens. But I think that I'm choosing my word a little bit differently than I have in the past, partly just because of kind of the season that I'm in. And this last year, I revisited a word that was my word 10 years ago, whole. And that was, I liked doing that a lot. It was interesting. It felt like a nice, like a bookend closure to 10 years of my life. And here we go into the next one. And the word I had 2 years ago was mend, which, as you all know, I loved. So part of being part of this team and being in this conversation, touch points monthly about this being in conversation with your word and with one another, I have felt kind of an intellectual curiosity about wanting a word that pushes me, not pushes me like to do more. I don't mean that at all. it's more like my mind and spirit are a little hungry. And so I want a word that will get me, my curiosity will be kind of tapped into. What do other people say about this word? What does this word mean? Writers say, whoever, my teachers and everything. And yet at the same time, the season I'm in is that, just to be like very transparent and blunt, my mom has leukemia. And we are in just the middle of all of what that means right now. I'm coming at you from being a caregiver for a month now for her. And so I know I'm old enough to know that what's ahead is going to change me. That who I started out at the beginning of 2022, not that 2019 personally, and then 2020 and 2021 and 2022 haven't changed me in the way it's changed all of us. But this is one of those moments in time that who you are when you're going through it, and who you'll be on the other side will be slightly different, right? You'll be changed. And so I want a word that while I want to kind of be intellectually curious about it, I want it to hold me, right? I want it to be a friend. I want it to be a word that, Lua, I love that we talked about this idea, a word that really feels like it already is what it is. And so the word that is coming up for me is grace. That I want to be able to, as I'm in conversation with my word, that helps me be in conversation with myself as I check in. How are you showing up? I've got my sticker on this water bottle here, Brandy Kincaid's words. We need not show up gloriously. We must just show up as we are. I need a word that will remind me that the messy is okay and the beauty is okay, and that it's all okay. And grace says, yes, it's all okay. But it also pushes me to, I am not someone who practices a specific religion. So without a doubt, it's one of those words that's going to poke at me a little bit if I let it, that's going to say other people's definitions of it, what it means. And I have come far enough in my journey that I feel really good about being able to set the boundaries around my own definition and the pieces I want to look at that will no doubt connect to spirituality. And I'm curious about that. I minored in theology in college, so it's kind of like going back to that side of myself. But knowing if 2023 unfolds and I don't look at any theologian's definition of grace, and all I do is grant myself grace to show up as myself every month, as this experience with my mom, alongside whatever else the future unfolds. Grace pushes me to know I just have to be myself, that whatever I think is greater than me is already giving me permission to be myself. And so this feels like a different way of choosing a word for me. It isn't really, it's the same. I'm thinking about what I need, how I feel, how I want to feel. But I feel proud of myself for still choosing a word that gets me excited in a curious way, while also being a gentle word. Because as you know, Allie, we've talked about this, I tend to choose gentle words. But after watching, being in this group, and specifically Victoria and Crystal with their words, I was like, I want to play. But 2023 is like, or, it's not, there's not more. We're not doing more. We're not gonna, and so grace feels like a good bridge to whatever may come. But who knows what it'll be? I mean, I'm excited to see, and it feels good to say it in this, so I won't back away from it, because it does feel like the right word, even though it feels like it'll push me a bit if I wanted to. Yeah.
So much. So it's so good. I just love, it's so good. So
I've been thinking about, this year I looked at a Mary Oliver poem every month, kind of, that felt connected to wholeness. I keep thinking about maybe a song, because Graceland is my favorite album. Paul Simon's Graceland. It's like the perfect length to put on in your studio to clean. It's not quite an hour, and it kind of gets you moving. And I keep thinking about Paul Simon, poet and songwriter, and his use of the word grace. John Denver talks about grace in a song. So I've been playing with, I might find some poems and some songs that have that word in it to explore too. But
I love it. I love it. I think one of the things that I love about you and how you approach having a word is from that place of curiosity. Like that always comes through no matter what word you have picked. And I I love that part of it. And I like that part about it for myself too. Like, I really like, I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to be curious. What does this word mean? What does this word actually mean in my life? Like, oh, yay, now I have an assignment. I can go figure it out. Like, that's definitely a piece for me. And I also, I know that it's going to be a hard year for you. It's that is just what it is. And I think that you will represent a portion of our community who are also going into knowing that they were going to have a hard year this year. And how does the process of having a word play into that, right? Or play alongside that? And how can the word that you pick be something that becomes
it's like a sanctuary. It can become like, Lou talks about anchor words, and I've words that just always sneak up throughout the year that kind of add in. But I keep thinking actually of sanctuary. Somebody in the Facebook group was talking about the word rhythm. Yeah. And I keep thinking those may be words that are helping me this next year. And that, a word can become
like a handful of words. I like that. I like, I mean, visually, I like that as well as just, I also liked what you said, something that you said made me write down, that there's a time to be challenged, and there's a time to rest, or a time to choose less, or, a time to slow down, and that those are, each one of us individually get to choose that. And I think that that's why I always talk about, it's like, you have to listen to yourself. What do you actually need? Not what you think you should pick based on, your parent, partner, whoever else, right? It's you. Coming back to that again, what is it that you actually need this year? 100%. 100%. Thank you. Let's go to you, Lou. You want to go next?
Yes, I'll go next. So I started inviting words to come to me around July, August. I put the feeler out there. And I'm like, I'm open to receive words. So it doesn't matter what it is. I just collect words. And so I'll start a running list, a note that I can access any and everywhere on all my devices. And I will just start collecting words. I find words aesthetically attractive. I used to read the dictionary for fun sometimes because I like the way that words look. So I just start collecting them, and I just put them down. I don't ask any questions. That's not the time. It's just collecting them, and I'll just have a running list. So I think this year I was feeling some of the words, and I think I like that one, but I don't know. Well, I don't. And so when I get to that point of I've got a few words that are really getting it for me, I start looking up the definitions of them. Because definitions of words or similes of words, the thesaurus is a great resource at this time. It'll completely knock a word out because I'm like, oh no, that's not how I want to feel. So it's an automatic elimination. It's not a bad word, but it doesn't align with the way that I've said that I want to feel. So I've already kind of done some of the hard work of how do you want to feel? Are you feeling the way you want to feel now? Do you need a word that supports how you want to feel? Because when it really comes down to it, this entire project is really, it's hard work about how you want to feel. And we typically are picking words that are doing multiple things. You're picking words that you want to make you feel good, or you're picking words to where you're abusing yourself. Hence, endure was an abusive word for me. It means long suffering. And because I didn't, that's when I started the process of looking up the definition of words. And when I saw that definition, had I been thinking, grace would have been a better word that one particular year versus endure, because I was suffering. And I was like, I don't want this. So looking up the definition of the word makes it easy to eliminate. And it just doesn't become one of my top 5 words. So I try to go for a top 5 list, realizing, and when I started using anchor words, and anchor words are words that support and they hold up your actual word. And my word for this year is opulence. For 2023, I'm going into opulence, which iconic setup opulence. Iconic had, I kept trying to minimize myself, and iconic would not allow me to do it. And it literally, when we had the conversation with the word, it literally said, I'm just waiting for you to show up and realize that you are just who you are, because I am who I am. I'm not going to change who I am. I am iconic, as are you. You pick the word. And so when you hear your word say what it is to you, you hear yourself say what your word is saying it is. If my word is saying I'm iconic, then I'm also saying I'm iconic. I'm play, I'm less, I'm slow, I'm this, I'm that. It is what it is. And so many of us, I think, when we struggle with this project, we struggle because we are trying to force ourselves. We are trying to be a square peg and force ourselves into a circle, and it's just not going to happen because you have edges, and you're trying to force these edges into this. You just won't fit. And that is the challenge, I think, that a lot of people run into when they pick a word that isn't theirs. They pick it because Allie picked it. They pick it because so-and-so picked it. They pick play because, well, Crystal had a great experience with play, so I'm going to have a great experience. And then they don't have a good experience with play, and they now associate their lack of play with Crystal. Or why did her life look like that? Well, of course her life can look like this. That ain't got nothing to do with her. It has everything to do with you, because you're too busy trying to fit into somebody else's box that's never was meant for you. So I started picking words without explanation. I don't give an explanation of why me and a word have decided we're going to go together for the year, because that's exactly what it is. It shows up, and opulent showed up because somebody said something. I said, oh, that's a sexy word. That's all I said. Didn't look it up, nothing. And then all of a sudden, when I finally did look up opulence and my anchor words, I can tell you what the other contenders were. Opulence is supported by 3 anchor words: audacity, which means boldness or daring, especially with confidence; marvel, which is something that causes wonder, admiration, or astonishment; epic, heroic, majestic, impressively great, spectacular, which are all anchor words for opulence, which means wealth, riches, or abundance. So it's just another way of me calling in. Iconic is like, you are who you are, now go and claim what is yours. And I said, shut your whole mouth. I'll do it. Because when I am feeling opulent or abundant, I am doing it because I have the audacity to want to marvel at the things in my life that are epic. So I tell people this is how your anchor words support that. And so anchor words help me. They also help to keep me grounded in my word, but they give you something to lean on if you feel like your word is too much for you sometimes. And so I have found, like, so I'm a collector of words, and I just kind of own that now, that I love collecting words, but I really get down and enjoy those words. And once I figured out what it is, I really sit with it. But if you find yourself struggling between a word or two, that's why I tell people you don't have to pick one word. You can have a main word, and then you've got some other words on the side but y'all all go together. This is your crew for the year. I have a crew of 4 words for the year, and they all support opulence. They're not trying to be top dog because they know that opulence is top dog for 2023, but it's not like they are not minimizing. They're reminding myself to be epic, to marvel at the things around me, and to and to have the audacity to show up, because my phrase for the year for 2022 was take up space. If that did not show up, constantly reminding me not to minimize myself. And so I think my phrase for 2023 is be delusional. I need to be completely ridiculous with my thinking. I talked to Oprah this year. That was not one vision board. She ain't been on not one vision board ever. I said, I want you to have the audacity to put certain things on your vision board. It may not be the public one, but you have the audacity to put it on there. You be freaking delusional about the things that you are calling into your life. Because when you talked about who you are, so opulence, who you were, which is iconic, going to who do you want to be? I don't know yet, but I cannot wait to meet 2024 word. I cannot wait because iconic set me up for opulence, which is setting me up for something. And I'm like, what the heck are you going to be? Because if these have been my words for the past couple of years, what are you going to be? It's going to, which is what? If this is who I am and this is who I was, then what am I about to be? How can you not be excited about that? So I am going into this with excitement, curiosity, really being curious, and then just knowing what I want is mine. If I want it, the only one stopping myself from getting it. Therefore, I'm stepping out of my way and I'm going gangbusters. And it's like, I can't do that. Be delusional. Okay. And then we're just going to go and just see what happens. So I'm kind of in that space right now of I'm going to be delusional.
I know no one else like you. I just want you to know that. Like, it's just magic. I just love, I like, as I'm listening to you, I mean, I'm like, I would never, I don't, and I'm like, I would never pick the word iconic even like it just wouldn't, and it's so you. And I'm like, why couldn't I pick that word? Like it just, thank you. Just thanks. I'm so, yeah, it's so cool to listen to you talk about it. And I love how you talk about anchor words too. And I also think you had very practical tips for people, which are great.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in terms of like, going to the dictionary, going to the thesaurus and looking those up when you're ready to look them up too. Like,
yes.
I liked how you talked a little bit about, you don't necessarily have to look it up right in the beginning, but it is probably a decent thing to do as you are considering what you want to do. I also thought it was really interesting. And I think next year when the summer comes around and you open up your dance card for words for the next year, I totally want you to make like a video of like, I am open to receiving.
That is literally what I do. I'm like, I'm ready.
I know.
I know you're here.
I know. I can just see you doing like a dancing video where you're like, bring it.
Come on.
I'm ready.
Up. And they just start showing up. And it's anything can trigger the word. And I'm like, ooh, let me write that down. Someone can say something. I'll just write it down.
Yeah.
No, because this is not when you ask. This is when you receive. Those are two different energies. I'm not in asking. I'm in receiving. And when you're in receiving mode, that's a totally different thing than you being in asking. And it's a vulnerable state, but it's an exciting state because you're not trying to figure everything out. You're just being open.
Yeah. And what I would say to people that are listening to this right now, you may be in that can be you right now. You can just say today, close your eyes, whatever. I am open, right? Mm-hmm. I am open to receiving starting today. And then see how it goes. Like, you don't have to have this figured out already. Just, I think that process of stating that is really a big piece. And I think we all probably do it. I think you might do it in a grander, more iconic way because that's you. But I think that's the process that everyone goes through, right? Is I'm going to be open, or I think is a really beautiful way to do it. I'm going to be open rather than going, what will my word be? I will pick my word, blah, blah, blah. Like, let's, how can I just be open to how I want to feel and what comes up for that? And that's kind of what I do too. Like, I just usually have a list on my desk here that has words on it through the year. So I almost picked B this year. B was the contender, like leading up until we had a conversation where Lucretia said something about reclaiming joy, and joy was a word that was kind of out there for me. And I'm like, reclaim joy. What does that mean? I want to know all about that. So that's all for me. That's the only thing that is leading me into the beginning of this year. What does it mean to reclaim joy? I want to know. That's where I'm going. That's the path that I'm going to walk down. I have no idea. I haven't thought about it beyond that. That's where I'm at.
Hey, Allie, can I add something to that real quick? I think that, and I've been like writing down everyone's nuggets of genius as I'm going. You don't have to have it figured out right now. I think that there's a lot of us, including myself, that's going through this journey that might be in a feeling like,
panic.
It's like 2023, the clock will strike 12 and 2023 will come. And 2023 will be here. Like
we can't
you don't
stop
have,
it.
right.
Yeah.
There's right. So it doesn't mean that 2023 will roll around and be like, and go, well, you haven't had it figured out. That's how that's how 2023 sounds to me right now.
Yeah.
Like a grandma. I don't know. Anyway, you don't have to, not all grandmas sound that way, but you don't have to have it figured out. It's 2023 isn't going to blame you for not having a word. So
Right.
like, if you don't know, you don't know. And as Lou says, and I wrote this down, it is what it is.
Yep.
So just, don't let it be what somebody else's thing is. You figure it out, but it doesn't have to be like January 1st. Then all of a sudden, you've got everything in line.
Yeah.
It's okay.
And pressure and guilt and all. You don't want to,
Yeah.
Nobody needs to start out like that. Yeah.
No, not at all.
No. You don't need to live that way anyway, but yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for reiterating that too. Yeah. So good. So good. I love it. I love it. Okay. Let's go on. Felicitas, how about you?
Yeah. So my usual process with choosing a word is like many of the other ones. Like in autumn, around fall, I'm usually open for receiving words. But I am actually one that worried about having not a word when the new year starts in previous years. So this was difficult. And I also, since English is not my first language, there's also always the debate, is it German? Is it English? And I have done previous workshops with German words. But for some reason, and I think I talked about this last year, maybe in the workshop, English, I feel more comfortable in, because this is weirdly more wired to my feelings and expressing everything that is what this workshop is about. So I decided to go in English. But then there's the question of, I have a limited word amount in English. So I'm looking for a word, but I'm not accessing all the English words. So that's always a problem. So yeah, that's the one thing. And the other things I struggled in previous years, that I tend to choose a word that is too narrow, too specific to one situation I would like to change or work on in my life. So, for example, when at the end of the year, we decided to end our infertility journey, our unsuccessful infertility journey, my word for the next year was accept. I knew I had to accept that, but just as Lou was talking about abusive words, right? Accept, as I was thinking while Lou was speaking, is accept in that point meant accepting defeat. And that was a very negative word for me. And it didn't work out. And then the next year, we looked into adoption possibilities. And my word was patience, because I knew this would be a long way to go, and I would have to be very patient for this. But it was very specific to that topic only. And so I didn't do the complete workshop in these years, because it just didn't work out for me at the end with that word, with those words. So yeah, I think I'm better now with having a broader version of things. And a little bit like Liz, with next year will be a difficult year for me, because this year was very busy with all the house purchase and everything that was in there, and then with the health issues with my arms, and that relates is now there's a possibility that I will have to change my business, my work, my job, because of the issues with my arms, and that is very scary. And I also have to make some changes in my personal life with relating to fitness and health wise, and that's also very scary. And I also realized I want to work from home anymore. That's a thing that came out from Open this year. So I think next year will be also very busy because these are very big things I have to work on and I want to work on. So I wanted to have a word that is literally light. Light is my word. I decided on that. I need something that is there and that is playful maybe and just broad enough to cover a few topics, but just not something that needs heavily work that I will have to do, I think. Yeah. So my word for next year is light with a thick undertone of love, because that was the second word I was thinking about. So yeah.
That was such a beautiful explanation, of where you're at and how you envision a word playing a role in that. Yeah. Because that's a lot of stuff, Felicitas, too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of things, a lot of big fundamental identity changes, right? For yourself and who you are. And I love light for you. I love that for you because it can be, shining a light, and it can be a feeling of lightness, and that desire for that in the middle of things that are hard. You already know that shit's going to be hard, right? So let's give you something that you can walk with that will give you a little something else to think about, right? Or a little bit of a different way to approach the things that are happening in your life. I love it. Yeah, I love it. It was a really beautiful explanation. Thank you for sharing. I think that's going to touch a lot of people. I think people are going to really resonate with that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I was going to say, you're always welcome to do anything you want in German too. I mean, I know you know that. I'm just saying it out loud again, because I think that there's lots of people that, English maybe isn't their first language. And, yes, just so you know.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. All right, Azari.
Oh gosh, I just want to start off by saying I'm taking so much from each one of you, and I feel like everyone should, even if you have your word or you don't have your word, talk to like a trusted friend on how you got to your word or what you were thinking or how it came to you, because I'm just sitting here absorbing so much and just thinking about my own experience, but also listening to everyone else's. I'm learning so much. So that's one thing I would encourage everyone to do, is just talk to someone about your word and how you chose it. It would be nice if you talk to someone else who's also on a similar path of choosing a word. But so I guess it's been known that I didn't have a word for a while. And I think that's because authentic was my word for this year. And it was very fitting. It was very comforting. I learned so much about being myself and being true to myself. And I didn't want to let that go. And after talking to all these beautiful souls, I realized that I don't have to let it go, that it could come with me and walk with me. And so I was able to close that reflection of that, you're not leaving it, you're taking it with you. And that is very comforting to me. I usually don't start thinking about another word till December. And for me, I know my word will come to me. And so similar to Lou, I try and remain open to it. I don't say it, but I just, in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm open for my word now. I'm ready to receive. Every year, my word comes through a quote. And usually I usually have that quote at the beginning of however I'm documenting that year. And that kind of sets the tone for my year. And this year's quote came from Liz's December pause class, as I felt it would, but here it is. So, what if instead of thinking about solving your whole life, you just think about adding additional good things? One at a time, just let your pile of good things grow. And that's my word for this year, which is good. I'm a very type A person. I like to be in control. I like to say I worry. I invent things to worry about. If there's nothing to worry about, let me invent something instead of, I am looking forward to, instead of solving all the problems, just keeping my pile of good things and thinking about what is good in my life and holding on to that and just letting my pile of good things grow. I'm getting emotional just talking about it. But another word I tried on that came to a close second was listen. And Felicitas, this you quantified why I went with good, because I felt I want to listen to my kids more. And I think, Allie, I think that was one of your reasons for choosing pause last year. I want to listen first in all of my relationships. Sometimes I talk first, or I'm already thinking about my response. And so I was like, I want to listen, but I felt it was more of for a specific topic versus something that I could take with me all year. But it will be a supportive word. I feel like I do want to explore that as well. So some of the notes I had for good, some of the things I want to explore this year is to focus on the good, to see the good things in my life, to know that some things are good enough. Again, letting go of perfection. Good things take time. You're on your own path. It does not have to be quick. It does not have to, be straight. It can be windy, but it takes time. Another thing that's good that I'm looking forward is good self-talk, of knowing I'm good, or no, I'm not good. Just speaking up and seeing what's there. What do I need? Or I see that, and that's great, but I'm good where I am, or I know what I need and what's for me. And then I could play with that. I feel like because every year has challenges, but I could also kind of pinpoint in my life what's not good. That sucked. That wasn't good. But I'm looking forward to seeing how that word plays out in my life. How to spend time with that word. And also, I needed something. I felt authentic was almost a little heavy, not completely heavy, but on the heavier side. And so I feel like I could almost, good is a little bit lighter, a little bit more playful, a little, I guess, giving me the ability to kind of ebb and flow and see where it takes me. So, so I just think that's what I settled on. And I think that is, I'm really excited about I feel like I have this my hand, and I'm just collecting all the good things. They're trying to form that and be comforted by it. So.
I love it. I really love too, the idea of starting with a quote. I think that's starting with a quote that exemplifies how you want to feel, right? And then pulling from that. I thought that's a really cool way to approach it too. And again, it's a word that has lots of different variations, lots of different avenues that you can explore with that. And I think I think when Liz and I talk privately sometimes about having words, we are always talking about how the words that are like that are more broad, which has been repeated here today, or more universal, or more global, or whatever, it opens up doors for you to experience different things. And I think that there is really value in that. I also think, for me this last year, that choosing pause did have a really specific intent, and that worked really well for me this year. But it also, pause has other meanings, and it gave me other opportunities to think about how it fits into different areas of my life. And I think that's part of being curious about the word too. This has been so good, you guys. Zari, just beautiful sharing. Thank you. Do you guys have anything else? I know Lou had to go. She might jump back on here. Do you guys have anything else that you want to say about picking a word, or from any of the notes you took, or any other things that you'd like to restate at all, or anything as you've listened to everybody else? Is there anything? I feel like it was so good.
I think I just want to underscore, and mainly this is not only for me to solidify in my brain for a lot of different reasons, but that being open to whatever whatever word you end up choosing, whether it's before 2023 or sometime in March in 2023, however that's going to work out. But being open to the journey and the process, because it's in the process where the good stuff is. And whether you decide to live your word just through thinking and feeling, or you're using that with tools that are offered in the class, which you don't, Allie says all the time, you don't need to buy all the products and stuff to do the projects. Because I know there's those people out there that just right?
Yeah.
But to really get to the crux of why it is that we do this and why we go on this journey, and that those nuggets of inspiration, of thought, of curiosity, of whatever it may be, comes in the process, and that it's going to ebb and flow. So I think when we go into this with realistic expectations, we don't become so disappointed when we have a month where the ebb is there, right? That valley is there and not the peak, because some months you're going to be at the peak and some months you're not going to. But just letting your word just be what it is, and being open to what that is, and whatever consistency or showing up looks like for you, that's what it's going to look like. Because in some years it's going to look great, and then some years it's going to be, whatever. But at the end of it, what did you get out of this? What did you get out of the process? And checking in with yourself. What did I get out of this month? And what can me and my word do together as you move on throughout the year? And being very honest and transparent with yourself about, don't lie to yourself, right? Don't sugarcoat it. How is it going? Is it great? Does it suck? Do you need to rethink your word? Whatever it may be, just be open and honest with yourself, and be open to the process. And that can be hard, but just let it be what it is. It's okay. However it happens, it's okay.
100%. And it's only about you. It's just about you. It doesn't matter what any other words any of us picked. It doesn't matter how anybody else is documenting it. It's only about you and the value in your own life, and how you think about yourself, and how you walk through the world. Like, that's what this is about. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I wanted to have other people to be in conversation with like this, is so that you could see all of these different ways, and all of the different things that people are thinking, and the different ways that this can be experienced. And this conversation is a great example about that. And from people who now have participated and showed up very regularly, right, over the course of a couple of years, to see that is a little bit different when you take the time to document, or when you take the time to, and even if documenting to you is simply writing down reflections at the end of the month, just like Victoria was saying, if all you do this year is you write down, or, in 2023, is you write down, this is how I saw my word this month, or something like that can be enough. right? And so I want to make sure we talk about that. And one of the things that I've been writing down as we've been having this conversation today is I think when we do our January conversation, our January live conversation in the 2023 classes, talk a little bit more about expectations. I think that would be really good. Have a conversation about how each one of us approaches it from an expectation standpoint, from the standpoint of what success means, success. That's a word that I'm like, I don't really like that word either. Liz, you like the word success? How you feel about it? No, that one is like a weird word too. Yes. So I think that would be great to do in January. Thanks, Victoria. That was really good. Anybody else want to say anything else as we wrap up, Crystal?
I have a comment too.
Yep.
And that is that words are experienced differently by different people. So when you are approaching inviting your word in, figuring out what your word is, I think the best thing you can do is, well, two things. First, get really, really clear about what that word means to you specifically. So not to everybody else, but to you specifically, because that's going to really be the foundation of what your experience is going to be with your word. So while it's great to ask other people, how was this word for you? Your experience will be different. I can promise you that. The second thing is to piggyback off of Azari, talking to somebody about your word, about what's bringing you to choose your word, especially someone who is close to you, who really understands you, can help you to get that clarity on what does this word really mean that I'm picking, and is this the right one? Not that they're going to say, like, I think this word, they might say, this word is great for you, or this word is not great for you. It's ultimately your decision. But just speaking things out loud can help you to define that for yourself.
Yeah. I loved Victoria mentioned that when she was talking about it. And Victoria, who did you talk to? Did you say, or it was like a mentor or a consultant? Yeah.
Yeah. So I reached out to a friend of mine who's a business consultant now for help. And because she's a personal friend, it's going to be a lot more than just business help, clearly.
Yeah.
But she is definitely someone that I can say, hey, this is what because, we'll be meeting every month, but this is, I'm, exploring this word slow. And I would like to see how that plays out in the work that we do together over the year. But she would definitely be somebody that I would talk to about what this is.
And she was telling you need to slow down.
Yes.
Yeah.
I need
and
to
you're
slow
like,
down.
I received that.
Slow down and minimize, reduce, slow down, minimize, and reduce is what she said. So yeah.
One thing I'm thinking of, and I'm not sure how this might be not a good idea, but one thing as Crystal was talking about, having a conversation with someone. I feel like that's something that people in the community could do too, if they wanted to connect with each other, like in the Facebook group, if you're looking for somebody, you would like to talk to somebody about this, you want to actually have a verbal conversation with another person. And maybe you don't have anybody in your life that you could talk about having a word with. Maybe you guys can partner up, have having a conversation with another human about this, I think is really powerful. And so you could talk on the phone or something like that. I mean, I'm just going to throw that out there. And if somebody wants to make that happen, I think that could easily happen within the Facebook group too. Or maybe small groups of people. I know that sometimes people have made side groups for people that all have the same word. Maybe you have a Zoom call with the other people that have the same word or different words or something like that. It's been really nice for all of us to talk together in this way. So that might be something that people want to investigate too. All right. Anything else? You guys are great. And just thank you to everybody for being a part of this community. And I'm excited. Who knows what's going to happen? We never know what's going to happen, but we're showing up. We're here together. We're going to show up. And I think that the other thing I thought as have been sharing today is I think we need to do this every year because I love this conversation. And then to be able to look back on these, like however many years from now, and look back and listen to what we said and how we felt at this point in time, I think would be really cool too. And the way that I choose a word is very much an amalgamation of what everybody has shared here. It was just really simple for me this year. Lou said it and I was like, yep, I'm in. Just bring it. What does that mean? I'm ready.
I think we should revisit this in 6 months because we'll go back and see how different we
Yes.
are. Because one thing I love is how we are not the same people in June and July that we are now in December.
I love it. Let's do that. Let's absolutely do that. Yeah. I think in
Ali,
June.
did you say your word was joy? Is that what
Yeah,
you did?
joy. I'm doing
Yeah.
joy. I
Yeah.
don't even, who knows? I just am like, when she said reclaim, there's something about the reclaim concept, I think, that Lou Krisha said when she said that, talking about reclaiming joy. And I was like, oh yeah, I feel like I've lost joy. Like what I've lost joy in a way, like I'm not unhappy. I'm not, I don't feel like I'm even in a depressive state, which I can't have lived in that state before. But I wonder about deep joy. Like I'm curious about deep joy and what does it mean for me to reclaim joy? And when were the times when I really did feel joy? And what does that, I don't know. It's kind of that I'm in the beginning stages of trying to figure out what that looks like. And nothing for me is ever sugary sweet. So it's not going to be a sugary sweet representation of joy, right? It'll be more of like, how does joy fit into all this other shit here too? So I don't know. I'm excited. It's just it'll be a different experience. Yeah.
I just made a list of all our words. We have less, slow, grace, light, good, joy. And Lou's word again, I didn't catch hers.
It's opulence.
Opulence.
It's an amazing word.
I was thinking of another. I had assigned you another word, Lou, because I'm like, isn't her word like? I forget what it was.
Was it audacity? That's one of her. That's her.
It's like I get so much. Like Lou is radiating on this energy level that is just amazing, and so I think of all the energy-inducing words and the opulence. I think we have a great list of words.
I love it.
I think we do too. I want to say this one thing about the reclaiming. You can change out the word joy for any word. But I found that it's going to be really interesting, Ali, seeing how you evolve through this exploration with reclaiming joy, because you've got a phrase and a word. You're reclaiming things, but it's not that you lost it. But sometimes I think we dim our light, and it's just a reclaiming of some aspect of yourself that you really enjoyed. And if you stay curious as you are exploring yourself through a word, you can't come out of this unchanged in a way that isn't going to benefit you in the end. That's kind of how I've been thinking about it too. And for me, it's just being more intentional about what I say I want. If I say I want joy, am I doing things that bring joy into my life? Am I, and with Iconic challenged me to ask myself, are you doing things that make you feel this way? Or are you doing things and surrounding yourself with people who make you feel worse? And that helped me move to eliminating certain things, people, situations, minding my business and keeping my skin clear, because choosing not to be in certain aspects of gossip because it wasn't making me feel better. I was like, I don't feel iconic talking about this right now. But an iconic person knows, but doesn't need to say anything. So it's reclamation of anything, reclaiming of anything is you making a declaration that you want something different in your life. And it is a very active word. So you put reclaim with whatever word you have, you're going to be unstoppable this year. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what everybody does in the community this year.
I will receive that from you. There are a lot of things that you said in there that made me go, for some reason, well, to be continued. We'll talk about that. That'll be another chapter.
Adding reclaim to your word. Oh my gosh. That mic drop.
Yeah,
mic drop.
For everybody.
For real though, right? For real.
Yeah.
And it makes you responsible for your happiness. And that's been a big thing for me. It is that I was waiting for people and things to make me feel iconic. I was never going to get that outside of myself. Iconic made me reclaim my joy, my happiness, things that thrilled me. And then now that I know what certain things feel like when it feels good, you can't tell me nothing. You can tell me, I don't like this thing here about you. And I'll be like, I am so sorry that you feel that way about me, because I know you feeling that in you. You be blessed.
Mm.
That's what they would tell you down south. Be blessed, baby. Be blessed.
Well, Lou, I know what I'm writing on my board, so I see this every day. What you just said is be more intentional about what you say you want.
Yeah.
That's going on the board.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So good.
So good.
So good. All right. Okay, let's wrap this up. I love you guys. If you were part of 2022, thank you so much. And for those of you guys that are in 2023, here we go. Woohoo! All right. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.